Hello everyone! Junior Wargops here, and today we'll be playing Green Hell, which is an open-world survival simulator set in the uncharted unique setting of the Amazonian rainforest. It's a more realistic survival sim compared to some of the other known titles in this genre, such as The Forest and The Long Dark, with more of the focus being on the survival and crafting mechanics of the game, rather than the base building mechanics of the game. The game was released in 2019, however Creepyjar continues to release new content, such as the console version they released last year, and even has a roadmap out for the expected content releases coming in 2022 for PC and console. Now the game does offer a story mode, which was a huge draw for me personally in wanting to try the game out, as you just don't see story modes like this in survival games very often, or if you do, they can be incredibly short and lack substance, or just not be very good to begin with. However, in my opinion, Green Hell did a really good job creating a storyline that kept me engaged and interested as I played through it. And the game also offers the standard sandbox survival mode that you'd come to expect in a game like this, which of course, the main goal is to see how long you can survive in the Amazonian wilderness while running from snakes, spiders, piranhas, stingrays, and the even scarier tribesmen and jaguars. The story mode currently has 3 chapters for the PC, the main story with 2 DLC editions called The Spirits of Amazonia, with the 3rd and final chapter of that DLC coming to PC sometime this year. And console users can expect to see the first 2 parts of that DLC this year for them. And what's awesome is that Green Hell's DLCs are free for anyone who already owns the game. Now today, we will be playing roughly the first 20 minutes or so of the story mode to give you all an idea of what the game looks and feels like before you decide to purchase the game for yourself. Afterwards, I'll be giving my thoughts and opinions and my overall review of the game, so be sure to stick around for that. But without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so this is just after the tutorial. I went ahead and cut it out, but I do recommend doing it if you've not played the game before. It will teach you all the basic mechanics that you need to know. But here we are at the spawn location, and the first thing we're going to do is grab some of this stone that is over here. You need stone to build all of your basic tools at the beginning, so it's important to grab some and have some on hand. The other thing I'm going to grab, because I see some, is some water lily. This is good for food poisoning if you eat something that you're not supposed to, and there is a lot of that, so having some water lily is very important. If I can get out of the water now, grab some more stone just in case. And the nice thing about water lily, as you can see if I go to food, is it does not actually decay, so you can keep it as long as you want to, which is very, very handy. We're going to grab some nanners. Who doesn't love nanners? Off the tree. Those are good for some carbs. If I pull up my watch here, you can see that I have 4 nutrition groups that I have to follow. Red is protein, yellow is carbs, green is fats, and then water is, of course, blue. The other thing I want to grab so that I can make my first tool is a stick. I need not a small stick, but a big stick. There's an unknown nut that is good for fat. Now I need to find myself a nice little stick so that I can make a stone axe. Sticks fall off of the trees periodically, so there's always some on the ground. You don't have to chop down a tree to get it at the beginning. And I see one right over there. So we're going to go ahead and make a stone axe so that we have our first tool. I'm just right-clicking and dragging down to craft. And now we have a stone axe. We're making our way in this world. The other thing I'm going to make is a spear. And for that, I'm going to need some rope, which is this liana, which is found on all of these really big trees covered in leaves. It's very abundant, but it's one of those things that you never think to grab until you need it. So for the spear, we're going to need a long stick, which you can get from chopping down these skinny trees. You'll see that it will break down into a bunch of different sized branches. So we're going to grab that, we're going to hit craft, and actually I'm forgetting a step. So what I need to do first is make a stone blade, which you make from making 2 stones into 1. Stone blades are really important because you need them to be able to harvest any animals that you kill. So if you plan to eat any meat, you're going to need that. You can actually see this is actually how you also make a bow, but I want to make a spear instead, which is a long stick, that stone blade, and a rope. And then I'm going to grab the rest of this stick because we're going to need it later on. And the other thing I'm going to need later on is leaves. Leaves you need to be able to make fires for kindling. So you'll see that now I have this small leaf pile, but this is not what you can make a fire out of. I have to wait for it to decay. So you'll see that it has 11 hours and 55 minutes to decay, which is fine. We can get some other stuff done in the meantime. And we don't need the fire right away. We're going to need it for the first part of the story mode. So we're going to start heading that direction right now. I mean, first, I just want to say that this game is beautiful. They did a really good job. If you are into more realistic survival sims, I think this would be a great game for you. It looks really, really good. The other thing that I noticed as I was walking up, and now I don't see it, oh, it's right there, is this plant with the yellow flowers around it. You need to make bandages. It is Molineria. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's very important. You need that to make bandages. All right, so let's start heading towards the tribal village. We have some yellow mushrooms here, which are good for carbohydrates and energy. There are a lot of different mushrooms in the game, and I don't necessarily recommending just eating whatever you find. That can get you into some pretty sticky situations pretty quick. My rule of thumb is to boil anything before I eat it, and even that doesn't always work. And there's our first predator. I almost walked straight into him. It is a snake. So I'm going to right click, or I guess middle click on my mouse, the little scroll wheel, to load that up, and then I killed him. And you'll see here, I do not have a blade, so I cannot harvest him. So I'm going to go ahead and craft another stone blade. And now we're going to harvest him. So that way we have a little bit of meat. Rattlesnake is only good for protein, but it is still better than nothing. You know, protein's very important in the game. I would say as long as you have protein, at least one of the other major food groups, and then water, you can pretty much survive. It may not be comfortable, but you can survive. Alrighty, and do not pick up the frogs. They will give you poisoning, which is awful. It is terrible at the beginning of the game. I've made the mistake, so just leave the cute little frogs alone. So we are making our way towards the tribal village. It is actually straight ahead of me. You can kind of see it starting to poke through the trees over there. And you want to be careful walking through the water because there are piranhas and stingrays. Piranhas, of course, aren't going to be in this shallow of water, but the stingrays are. And I've gotten stabbed multiple times from walking right through this tribal camp. So you want to be a little careful. The other thing, too, is there is a jaguar spawn near here. So you want to be very careful. You don't want to run straight through here. He spawns somewhere over there. Don't know exactly, but he loves to hunt you. So you'll see we're at the tribal village now. I walked right up to the fire, and now we have our map. And this will kind of start your storyline. This here is talking about how we need to make ayahuasca to bring back memories. So telling us to trip in the woods that we have no idea where we are. Great idea. So we'll see here that we have our cauldron. We're gonna hit N to bring up our notebook. Everything on the right hand side is going to be your base building things, mud, structures, frames, fires, everything like that. Everything on the left is going to be your information. It's important to keep up with this as you learn things because this will fill out as you eat different foods, different mushrooms. This is all of your healing things. So important to keep track of that as you go through. You won't have these top two if you're only playing the survival mode. And here it is talking about our ayahuasca. So we need Banistripisis copy. Don't know how to say that. And Psychotria viridis. I can't read. And I know for a fact that first plant we need is right here. I think it's always right here no matter what, so you can just turn right there and grab some. And then the other thing we need is actually on this really, really big tree right behind it. This vine that I can't say. Grab some rope, right not. So now we can build our fire underneath the cauldron. So I hit my notebook, I went over to the fire tab, and now I got my little campfire. You'll hit E to enter things into whatever you're building. I did not have enough small stick. So we're going to grab this over here, and we're going to go back and finish this fire out. All right, but my dry leaves still need 9.5 hours until they are dry kindling. So, in the meantime, what we can do is we can go ahead and try to get some food, because I would not recommend just trying to run through the story mode as quick as possible. The game is very unforgiving if you try to do that. The minute you get stabbed or stung by one thing, the game is going to turn incredibly difficult. So we're going to go hunting. We're going to try to find our first animal. So right in front of me are, I believe they're called tapir. They might be called something different. There are a couple that look very similar. These are very good for protein. So I'm going to hit middle on my mouse button. And I missed it. Great. Yeah, run away. We're going to try again. That one didn't seem to notice that I threw a spear at his buddy's head, so we're going to try again. An important thing to keep in mind, though, is that if you do not hit them in the head, they are going to run away. Oh, it's a Picari. They are going to run away with your spear if you don't hit them in the head, so it's important to try to get a headshot. Nothing worse than losing a spear when you don't have any other materials to make another one. And you'll actually notice that from harvesting that animal, I am now dirty. It is that little symbol above my information there on the bottom left. You'll also see that I have my sanity meter, which is important to keep track of. If it gets too low, you'll start to hear voices, and it gets terrifying very fast. So keep in mind with that, if you use maggots, if you have infections, if you have cuts, anything like that, it slowly lowers your sanity. If you're having to eat bugs and spiders and things because you don't have any other meat, that's also going to lower your sanity. And you'll actually notice that when you go to areas like this, that you can discover things like this new notebook entry for a dryer that I just found. That would be the main reason for going and finding these structures if you're just playing the survival mode, because being able to build this stuff is going to help you a lot in the long run. So now that I have the dryer, I'm going to put this stuff down there. It will slowly dry, and it lowers the decay rate by like 1/3. Very important to have dried food if you can. An important thing to keep in mind, though, I can actually see them right in front of me, is if you're ever near any banana trees or fruit trees, that's where spiders love to hang out at. They will ruin your life because they're incredibly small, they're hard to see, but if you'll notice once he's getting closer to me, that chittering sound, that's how you know that you're near a spider. So you want to be always listening for things. Jaguars will growl at you when they're hunting you down. Snakes will rattle. Alligators will growl. Everything makes a noise that is dangerous, that is attacking you. And then you have the iguanas that hiss and freak you out at all given times. So we have everything kind of out waiting to dry. We don't have anything for water yet, though. Water is very important, so what we want to try to do is maybe see if we can find some coconuts before it gets too dark. Of course, you're going to be looking at the palm trees right here. They are big and easy to see. I don't see any up there. I don't see any up there either. So I may have struck out with my coconut hunt. I only went about 20 feet, but I'm already giving up. I don't want to go too far from here. The minute you start wandering away, things start trying to hunt you, so I'm just going to kind of stay in this area. Hopefully the jaguar will not come and attack me. And we have, if I can find it, we have just about 7.5 hours until those leaves are dry. So what we can do is we could just go ahead and sleep if we don't want to wait, and that's actually exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and sleep. All right, we just slept. It's like 2 in the morning and it is now raining. However, that's okay. We have our dry leaf. That is what we needed. So to make our fire, we're actually going to need to make our fire building tool. There's a small stick. And to do that, all you need is a small stick and a big stick. We'll hit craft and craft. And now we got a hand drill. And with this hand drill, I can hit use, bring up my dry leaves, and we'll put them right in there. And you'll actually see that my stamina is lowering. So if you're too tired, you are not going to be able to make a fire. So you want to make sure that you're keeping a fire lit at all times if you can. However, the caveat with that is that fires attract both jaguars and tribesmen. So it is a little risque to use it all the time. However, I almost always have a fire lit if I'm at camp. We're going to go ahead and enter this ayahuasca, and we're going to go ahead and go through this first cutscene. Alright, so this is just after the first interactive cutscene and dialogue that came after it. Not going to show that. I don't want to ruin the story mode for any of you that want to play it. But it did give us a new location on the map, this little Lambda 2 location, and that is where we're going to head to next to continue the story mode. You'll actually see too, if you hit T, this will bring up your walkie-talkie, and it's important to go through the dialogue because it will actually help you discover more things and new storyline pieces as you answer those dialogues. So you'll see there it says that I have new dialogue. I already know what the dialogue is. It's pretty long, so I'm not going to go ahead and enter it. We're just going to start making our way towards Lambda 2. Now this area that I'm walking through is the Jaguar spawn. I don't know when they decide to spawn him, if it's after that first part or not. But we're going to go ahead and start heading over to Lambda 2. So you'll see that we were here, so we needed to really go a little north, but pretty much east. If I bring up my watch, you'll see that I am going east. So we're headed the correct direction. You don't want to go up there. If you go up there, you're going to get lost. You just kind of want to wrap around. And you just want to be careful. You want to listen. And here is a mushroom that is very good in carbohydrates. However, if you eat it raw, it's going to give you food poisoning. So you want to make sure that you cook those white-caped mushrooms. And so we need to continue to head east. So we really need to go up this way. Again, being careful for stingrays that might be hiding in the water. Alright. It's a little risque to be running through here because I don't know what might be hiding here, but we're just going to go for it. Got a nice little river here. And then here are some orange mushrooms. These actually are really good for fighting food parasites, which you get from eating food if your hands are dirty. So it's important not to eat food if you're not clean. Nothing worse than getting food parasites and having to wander through the woods at 2 in the morning trying to find orange mushrooms when it's completely dark. Alrighty, we're going to walk right up this log here, and we are actually already at our Lambda 2 location.
How do I get up there?
And if you continue to answer the dialogue and go through it as you find it, it will progress the story for you. It will give you new things to start looking for. But for our sake, we're going to go ahead and end right here. I mostly just wanted to give you guys a first look at what the game is like if you were jumping into the story mode, a couple of tips and pointers to get you started. But this was not to be a tutorial or an overall gameplay. I might continue a different series where we completely play through the story mode, but this was just to give you all a first look at the game. So stick around for my review. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the little bit of gameplay, but now it is time for Rogue's Review. I'll be reviewing the game based on 5 categories. First up is gameplay and mechanics, or how well does the game's mechanics and controls work together to create the experience the game was after. For this, I gave the game a 7 out of 10 because there's a lot that Creepy Jar tried to squeeze into the game, but overall everything works and feels pretty good. And next up we have graphics and visuals, or how does the game actually look? And for this I gave the game a solid 9 out of 10, because while there are better looking games out there, in terms of a survival game, I don't think you're going to get a much better looking game than what Green Hell is going to offer you. And next we have the story mode and how enjoyable of an experience it was and if it all really fit together. And for me personally, I really enjoyed the story mode. I thought they had a lot in it to keep you engaged and interested as you played it, and the fact that they have DLC content coming out to add on to that story makes it even better. So I'd give this game an 8 out of 10 for their story mode. Next up is the overall finish of the game, and more specifically, how are the bugs and glitches throughout playing, and how do they affect the overall playing experience and immersion that the game is trying to put you into. And for this, I gave the game a 6 out of 10, because there's just a few things that seem a little off and can kind of pull you out of the immersion that they're trying to put you into. Things like chopping down trees and some of the base building aspects just kind of seem glitchy and off, so they could definitely use a little bit more polishing. And last but not least, we have the overall fun factor and whether or not the game was enjoyable for me. And yes, that's subjective to me, but I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was a ton of fun. The story mode was great. The different aspects that they brought into a survival game I thought were really fun and really interesting, and I can definitely see myself coming back to play it again in the future as they release more content. And so, with all that, my final rating in the game is a 7.6 out of 10, which for a game that's not even $30, I would say that is quite the steal. So, if the game looked at all interesting to you, why not grab a friend or even join alone and see how long you can survive in the Amazonian wilderness? Alright, guys, well, I think that's going to be the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate you stopping by. It means the absolute world to me. This is Junior Rogops, signing off.